The sun was setting. The sky was ablaze with red and orange. Three friends, Max, Jake, and Emily, were setting up camp by Lakefield. The lake shimmered. The air was crisp and cool. They laughed and told jokes. They felt happy to be out in nature. Max took a deep breath and said, "This is the life. No city noise, just peace and quiet." Jake chuckled as he set up his tent. "Don't jinx it. This place gives me the creeps." Emily scoffed while unpacking their supplies. "Don't be silly, Jake. It's beautiful here." As darkness fell, they built a crackling fire. The flames danced in the night, casting long, eerie shadows around them. After dinner, they sat around the campfire, telling spooky stories. The wind rustled the leaves, sounding like whispers in the dark. Jake shivered, pulling his jacket tighter. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his eyes wide. Emily threw another log on the fire and asked, "Hear what?" Jake whispered, his voice trembling. "I thought I heard something moving in the woods." Max laughed. "It's just the wind, scaredy cat." But even he sounded a little uneasy. Later that night, Emily woke up needing water. The fire had died down to glowing embers. Strange shadows danced around the campsite. She walked towards the lake, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. She froze. A dark figure stood at the edge of the water. It was tall and thin with long, sharp claws. Emily gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. "What is it, Emily?" Max whispered, joining her by the lake. He had woken up and noticed her missing. Emily pointed a trembling finger at the shadowy figure. "Look," she whispered. The figure turned, and for a fleeting moment, the firelight illuminated its face. It was pale and gaunt, with glowing red eyes. Then it vanished into thin air. Max stammered, his eyes wide with fear. "That's impossible." Emily remembered the local legend Jake had told them earlier. The legend of Old Man Withers, a lonely fisherman who drowned in the lake and now haunted the woods, seeking revenge on campers. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. It came from the direction of their campsite. "Jake!" Max and Emily cried out in unison. They raced back to their campsite, their hearts pounding in their chests. They found Jake cowering inside his tent, his face as white as a sheet. "What happened?" Max asked, shaking Jake's shoulders. Jake could barely speak. He pointed a trembling finger towards the woods. "Old Man Withers. He was here," he stammered. Just then, they heard a low growl coming from the trees. The growl grew louder, closer. They were trapped. Max grabbed a burning log from the remnants of the fire. He held it out towards the trees. "Stay back!" he yelled, his voice trembling. The growl stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Then they heard the sound of heavy footsteps crashing through the underbrush coming towards them. "Run!" Max shouted. They didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled to their feet and fled, racing blindly through the dark woods, the sound of their pursuer close behind. They ran until they couldn't run anymore. They collapsed by a giant oak tree, gasping for breath. They listened intently. The sounds of the forest were all around them, but the creature was gone. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the trees, they made their way back to their campsite. Everything was as they had left it, except for one thing. Jake's backpack was gone. They packed up their things and left Lakefield as quickly as they could. They never went back. They never spoke of that night again. But sometimes, in their dreams, they could still hear the sound of heavy footsteps, and they would wake up in a cold sweat. The terrifying image of Old Man Withers burned into their minds. The mystery of what really happened that night at Lakefield remained. The legend of Old Man Withers lived on.